welcome to the book club discussion for December. That
Mm.
almost didn't happen. But by popular demand, here we are.
Yeah.
The book this month was The Little Prince. Oh my gosh, it's really reflective. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm good. I am going to do my best here. I don't know how much information I retained listening to the audiobook, especially because I listened to it like 2 weeks ago, but I'm going to try our best.
Okay, I started reading the book earlier this week, but then I reread it from the beginning today, and I still feel like I didn't retain anything. So
Great! I love that.
yeah, um, yeah, it's a weird little book. I really wanted to read it because I feel, well, maybe what our history of the book. Like, I feel like this is a book that like I've seen the cover everywhere, and it's just like always kind of been around,
Mm-hmm.
but I never knew what it was about.
Yeah, I had zero expectations going into this, and I was still like, oh, okay, that's what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd heard people say like, oh, it's like almost like a philosophy book, and it's really profound. But I thought I also expected the story to be interesting. My bad. Maybe I'm just a hater. I think also because it's a translated work could be part of the issue,
Mm.
why it felt a little bit weird to me. I like immersion read it with the audio and the physical, and there was definitely translation differences between the two.
Yeah, that's fair. I
And
didn't
that's
think about
always awkward when when you're like reading it with your eyes and like the narrator's saying the sentence slightly different or like changing certain words.
that. Mm-hmm. Hi, Nina. Welcome. Did you read the book?
I know a lot of people read this in school, especially if they have French class. I wanted to buy the original French version, but I already had the English version. So
Do you speak French?
badly, I mean, I'm on a Duolingo streak of like 600 days.
Dang, I didn't know that. I know zero French. I studied Italian in school.
So yeah, this is what our second translated work because we had Inkheart as our first.
I always forget that Inkheart is translated, but yeah, I think those are the only ones.
Yeah, but that I don't know. That doesn't seem like clunky, that translation.
No, I love the translation of Inkheart, and I read a different book. I forget who the translator is now, but I read a different book that was translated from German into English by the person who translated Inkheart, and I'm like, wow, this person's just really good at translating.
Yeah, because that the prose in Inkheart was really beautiful. So I'm like, Nina says no, but I own it in Dutch. This month was more stressful than I thought. Yeah, which is part of the reason I picked such a tiny. I
Yeah.
think the audiobook was like 1 hour.
Yeah, it was an hour and 47 minutes, the audiobook that I listened to.
Yeah. So, should I put up the spoiler banner? Probably. Um, so I mean, the book is about like a guy who talks about how he can't draw, and he becomes an airplane pilot and crashes in the desert and meets this weird little dude, the little prince.
Yep. That's it. That's the book.
Instead, we just get like a bunch of random sort of like stories and explanations of things. Like, I don't know, we learn about drawing sheep and plants and these things. Oh, what are those one weird trees called?
Oh, yeah.
I've already forgotten.
I did not retain anything. Oh my god.
Bobobabs or something.
Yeah, yeah. The ones that are like really thick or something like that.
Yeah, they're like these big old trees, and this is a lazy man who didn't tend to his bobobabs, and they grew and took over his whole planet. And the guy like falls in love with a rose, and it's really see some of the pictures.
Oh my god, that's such a funny picture. Why is he making that face?
Yeah,
really missed out with the illustrations. Maybe I'll have to like get the physical book from my library or something just to see.
Yeah, and then we go to all these other planets and like you meet the people on them. And there's like a mean guy with a hat, like a guy who's like doing business. There was like one guy who was like a lamp pole lighter.
We had to do it like every 30 seconds.
There he is. Yeah. So, and we learn a lot of important lessons along the way, like thinking like a grown up is bad.
Uh-huh.
And that's my summary. The book is about a little prince. You know what? I thought it was actually going to be like a real prince. Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, not an alien.
yeah. And I thought he was going to be like a little prince who just like traveled to this little planet to live there. I didn't think like this was his little planet.
It never occurred to me that he was like in space on the cover. Like I've seen that cover a million times, and I don't think I ever registered that he's like standing on a little rock in space.
Yeah. Well, he's from outer space, so I mean, I guess he's an alien. It's not actually a planet; it's an asteroid. I believe it was asteroid B12, B612. Yeah. Let's talk about some discussion. Plot and pacing.
I don't think there's a plot. The pacing is good because it's fast, it's short. I wasn't like bored. I was just like, what is going on?
Yeah, there's a very loose plot, but it's more like little epilogues than like a through line story. It could be. I mean, you could definitely, not judging a class or anything, but you definitely could edit this into a plot.
Yeah.
I know there's a film version, and I wonder if that film version that has like a feature length did that. If they added more elements to it.
I was thinking that when I was listening to it. I'm like, why is this set as like a frame story of him telling all of these stories? Why did we not just see him visiting these people?
Yeah. It was a little bit strange. This book already sounds crazy. Yeah. The plot is very... I think it's supposed to be a kid's book. And I can definitely see it like each chapter a bedtime story, but how enjoyable this would be. Because it's a little bit nonsensical. And abstract at times.
I don't think I would have liked this as a kid. It was not like the kind of books I read. I was reading The Lord of the Rings at like 8 years old.
Yeah. I've just really nothing else to say about the plot and the pacing. It's a fast read, but yeah, that's the nicest I can say. So I guess the only other, I don't know, we have 3 other banners. Frozen writing style, but it's a translated work, so it's some of the prose be affected by that.
I like that it's not like convoluted or anything, but I think that's because it is meant for younger audiences, so
yeah, a lot of it was very simple, and a little bit, yeah, not whimsical maybe, like the character dialogue, the way they speak sometimes. Like, I don't know, like how he wanted the sheep in the box. He's like, that's exactly how I wanted it. And it's kind of almost like little jokish style. It doesn't take itself seriously, but I mean, I think that's the point of the story.
I don't know what the point of the story is. I did not get any message from this.
I was really hoping to love it, and I feel like maybe if I read it in school and I had a teacher like this is supposed to symbolize this or do that, I would like it more. But like, if, again, like if the base story had been more interesting,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't invested enough in all these little planets and absurd things that were happening.
Yeah. It wasn't bad, but it also wasn't great. It was very middle of the road.
It was super middle of the road, and we're like only 11 minutes into this discussion, and I have surprisingly like nothing to say.
Alright, the next book we pick has to be like 500 pages so we have something to talk about for more than 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Themes and Boku no Themes. This book is just all themes
Yeah.
and symbols. The whole thing is supposed to be like metaphors, right? Like adults not understanding his drawing is, you know, saying like you lose the childhood whimsy when you grow up,
Mm-hmm.
and like the Babadooks or whatever those trees were called, like
Did you say Babadook?
no, what are they? Babadab, Babadab, what are they called? Baobab. Uh, yeah, and I think also the fact that like the little prince, because he's from such a small planet, he has a hard time like conceptualizing like big things.
Mm-hmm.
Like when the guy said like a herd of elephants, and he's like, you'd have to stack them on top of each other. He couldn't like imagine like elephants like in a herd.
Yeah.
It was too.
I feel like that also like plays into the childhood theme because he is a child, and when you're a kid, your worldview is so small because you just haven't seen a lot of stuff. So it makes sense.
Definitely. I don't know. I guess I really didn't vibe with all like the planting and gardening stuff going on.
You didn't vibe with the plants?
No, it was like I didn't really understand why the guy fell in love with the rose. Like, what was that about? Oh, and then there was he got really mad. Like, this was, I think, also supposed to be a very profound thing. Like, when he asked him, like, "Well, why do flowers even have thorns?" And he got like really mad at him for even asking that. And then there's like this philosophical thing at the end where it's like, well, did the sheep eat the rose because he didn't draw the harness right or something? And he's like, oh, it's a sheep in a box that I've never seen, like a hypothetical sheep. Did he eat the rose? And I guess it's supposed to be really profound, but I just found it.
Yeah, I didn't follow what was going on.
I don't. I feel bad. Like I know so many people love this book, and it's like
Maybe we've just lost our childhood whimsy. Maybe we're too old for it.
I really think I think that we are adults, and we think that the boa constrictor picture looks like a hat.
Did that picture? I tried to find it, but I couldn't. Did that originate with this book? Because I've
Yes.
seen that picture around the internet, like for years.
Really, I had never seen it before. Where is it? I have it on my book somewhere.
It kind of looks like a New Yorker cartoon. Not gonna lie.
So, wait. There's the boa with the elephant when he's in with the skin, and then the transparent where you can see through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've definitely seen that picture before. I didn't know it came from The Little Prince.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it before. I'd seen some of these illustrations before. Because like I see them on merchandising stuff. But I think because I live like in Francophone Europe, this is like a very popular motif to put on like kid blankets and lunch boxes and stuff. So just see the product.
That's very fair.
Yeah, like that classic image. I've definitely seen that before.
The illustration kind of reminds me of Shel Silverstein because all of his poetry books are illustrated.
Yeah, it totally does.
Dang, I really feel like I missed out listening to the audiobook.
Yeah, and they talk about how his planet, or his asteroid, was founded by this Turkish astronomer, and like they didn't take him seriously because he was Turkish. And then like the photo of him, he's like a pig. I'm like, is this supposed to be like? Is that racist? I don't know. Why is
Wait, what year did this come out?
I think in the 50s? No.
That it is probably a little bit racist.
Oh no, maybe the 40s. When is this? When did this come out? The copyright on this.
Would you like me to Google it?
Yeah.
I'm on it, boss.
Mine's just the copyright for this edition. I'm like, well, that's not helpful.
April 1943.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so
That was 80 years ago? Did I do that math right?
you asked me the wrong person. I am so bad at math.
Time isn't real.
I'm trying to think of any other like motifs or symbols throughout. The rose, sunset. That was a cool thing because he's like, oh, his little friend, he loved sunsets, and I figured it out because he told me, hey, you want to go watch a sunset? And he's like, here, you can only watch a sunset like once a day, but in my planet, you just have to walk over to the other side of the planet. You can see it whenever you want.
That's so funny.
That was probably my favorite little bit in the book. And just the beginning. I liked the beginning scene where you hear like the narrator saying like about him and his bad drawing. And I actually was like thought that the book was him. But then it went in a weird place.
Yeah, I'm not upset that I read this book. I just didn't get a lot out of it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I've had the really pretty edition, in my like wish list. I'm like, oh, I think I'm gonna take it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I need that.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know if
fair.
having that would bring me joy. I actually probably will donate this copy. So I don't see myself rereading it.
I might reread it a couple of years down the line just to be like, wow, still weird.
Well, I mean, it is a quick read, so it's not like you're out anything. Yeah, it's like I think you were supposed to learn lessons from this. Like this one planet had like a drunk wizard. Do you remember him? And they're like, oh, like why are you drinking for? Like, oh, so I can forget. What do you want to forget? I forget that I'm ashamed. What are you ashamed of? I'm ashamed of the drinking. And it's like. And that was the whole chapter. That was it.
Yep.
And then move on to the next chapter.
Meet the next ridiculous adult person.
Yeah, which is supposed to say adults are so bogged down in things. But I don't know. I feel like you could do that in a better way. Even like I think about like a book like we did for the book club, like Percy Jackson. You know, when they're in that what is it? It's not a casino. What's that like?
The
Percy Jackson. That's like a pleasure.
The hotel.
The
Lotus Hotel.
Yeah, that. Like I feel like that you get also like the same ideas of like some metaphors, but like it makes more sense in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Percy Jackson is actually a really good example because you have like all the little epaulets of all the different like characters representing the different gods. But it still flows together as like a plot.
Yeah, this was definitely disjointed. I feel like we could still have the bit in the beginning of like the narrator talking. But then I feel like if we just jumped to the prince and saw him visit all the different places and then come back at the end, I think
I
that would
agree.
flow
That would have
better.
been a much better like way to like structure the novel, to have it be like, come around, children, let me tell you about this weird little guy I met. And then like boom, cut to weird little guy and hear all his stories.
Yeah. That's it. We're gonna rewrite The Little Prince. Just like you rewrote the Hunger Games.
No, I agree. That would have been a much better formatting, and it would have made more sense, I think, for the different lessons.
Mm.
But again, we are jaded adults who maybe are just not whimsical enough to appreciate it.
It could also be the translation thing. Because, like, I don't know, maybe French children's literature has a different vibe to it that, like, French people are like, yeah, that makes sense for the story. And then we're just like, what?
Yeah, maybe we need a kid to tell us.
We gotta go find a little French child to tell us how this story is to him.
Yeah, maybe they really vibe with it. I don't know. I can't imagine kids really vibing with it because I don't know.
Put out a survey, be like, do you know any children who have read this? What did they think of it?
Oh yeah, this line was definitely racist. I'm definitely not going to read it, but it was like listing the people on Earth. I don't know if you remember that. And he like breaks down the demographics. I was like, oh,
Yeah, some of this was definitely a product of its time.
that one made me a little bit stop in my tracks. I was like, oh, did they really just say that? Oh yeah, they did. Okay. I guess that's the thing though. When we read like older nostalgic books, like there's gonna obviously be things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame, but it is what it is. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Any final thoughts?
No, I'm probably not going to think about this book again.
Me neither. I probably am not gonna think about this book again. Well, no, I probably will think about it, but like, you just sometimes with like classics, it's kind of like, and I guess all these nostalgia reads and the whole reading of the book club, like, oh, that's a book I've seen around. Now, like, I'm in the know and I know what it is. So sometimes I just like being able to be like, okay, I know that. So,
Yeah, one of my favorite hobbies is going into a bookstore and just pointing out all of the books that I've read, so.
that's relatable. It's so relatable. Honestly, as much as I do dislike, I wouldn't say dislike.
I would say ambivalent.
Yeah. The book, I kind of want to read it now. Oh, okay.
We'll read it and then give your comments in the Discord so we can know how you felt about it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I thought I was gonna love it because everything I had heard, like, oh, it's like a little philosophy book. It's so profound, but I don't know. Like I said, it just the plot itself wasn't interesting enough. And I think if you want to add like profound things in there, it still has to have the base story around it,
Mm-hmm.
and not just be a little philosophy book. Because reading a philosophy book alone is kind of boring, especially when all the metaphors are like a rose and a sheep
And a drunk wizard.
and a drunk wizard. Yeah. I mean, I think I can definitively say he's one of my favorite characters for that 1.5 page that he had.
Yeah.
My second favorite character, the sheep in a box that we never see.
I like the lamplighter. That man's a hard worker.
Yeah. And he was one of the adults that they were like, they even give the lamplighter a little credit because they were like, Oh, at least he has a reason to be stressed out. At least he has a valid excuse. I was like, oh, okay. I wouldn't understand like 90% of it because I will read the Dutch version. I don't know. Aren't you learning Dutch, Nina? Maybe you understand more of it than you think.
I feel like reading children's books in the language that you're trying to learn is going to be helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe it'd be more helpful if you read like an actual Dutch children's book and not a French book that was translated into Dutch, but I don't know any Dutch
We
children's
take what
books.
we can get.
Yeah.
If there are any Dutch people here, tell them. Of our 2 watchers, and one of them is Nina. No, they don't walk into a bar. They land on a very small little asteroid planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Like, luckily, Dutch is basically just German, which is fun. I actually think it would be the opposite, that German is Dutch with spice, because Dutch doesn't seem very spicy. Okay, that's just my thought. I'm taking down the spoiler banner. There is not an official pick yet for January because I am behind on book club organization. But fear not, the book club is alive and well. That's all I have to say.
Do you want to like? Do you have any announcements? Are you going to talk about the spreadsheet, or just going to drop that in the Discord?
Yes, so I mean, for the 2 people watching, I have a spreadsheet. It has a lot of books that sort of fit into the nostalgia parameter. And that I think would just help people be able to look at it and decide what they want to read. Maybe it'll spark something for them. But also, because how I've kind of set up the rule of the book club that it has to be at least 10 years old, that means starting the day after tomorrow, all the 2015 releases become eligible.
Exciting.
And I don't know if you've had a little gander at the 2015 YA books, but there was some big books dropped that year. So I think some people, hold on, I have one of the books right here next to me. I think this one people might want to read.
Six of Crows came out in 2015.
Yeah, I have a feeling that this might be one that people want to read.
It has to be later in the year because I want to read it, but I want to read the original trilogy first because I'm a completionist.
To be fair, we could definitely do Shadow and Bone in the beginning of the year, and then later in the year do Six of Crows.
That's a good point. Did we not do Shadow and Bone before?
No, we had it on the roster, and at the last minute we changed it to Shadowhunter.
Oh, right. I didn't read that one either.
I don't know if you didn't miss anything. That was one of my least favorites.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what's going on with the book club. Pretty much the only thing with the book club that's really changing, I would say, is I think I want to shift a little bit away from, not shift away. I just want to put more of a focus on the YA books than the middle grade books because I haven't found as many middle grade books. They're still on the list.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like a lot of the big middle grade stuff we've done, there's still other niche stuff out there, things we haven't got to. But like in comparison, there's just a lot more YA books. So
yeah,
because I think before I was trying to do it like every other month, like middle grade YA, and that's just not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then there's also like classic books like this. I have a lot of classic books on the list as well, that are considered children's books, or I mean, young adult wasn't a category, but
you know what I am surprised we haven't read yet for the book club is The Outsiders.
That is on the list. I was just going to say that. So the list of classics, I had books like The Outsiders, A Wrinkle in Time, Hatchet, Call of the Wild, The Wind and the Willows, Lord of the Flies.
I have some of those on my list of books I want to read this year, so I'll try
Yeah,
and line it up with the book club.
I think going forward with the book club, like getting in some of those like 2010 trashy YA novels and getting in a few classic younger reader novels as well to keep it fresh. Because I know people were like, I don't want to try to the book club. Some people said like, oh, it's not a sustainable like concept for a book club. I'm like, there's so many books that fall into this.
And every year we unlock more.
Every year we unlock more because we're raising the limit. Which I know some people say then 10 years isn't really nostalgic.
10 years ago, I was 16. That is so nostalgic for me.
Yeah, see? Perfect. That's what I was trying to say. Like, everybody's different ages. So even though for, like, me, nostalgia reads are, like, 2012 and before, I'm older than a lot of people. And I think also the concept of not wanting to miss out on, like, books because, you know, especially I watch a lot of BookTube or bookish content online, and you see like these sort of like cornerstone books that it seems that everybody just knows, everybody just read them. And in general, I think encouraging reading is always good.
I'm excited for the new year of the book club.
Me too. I saw your book wrap up post on the Troublemakers Discord of your reading spread, and it was very inspiring.
I'm glad.
I was like, oh, that's a lot of tracking in detail and a lot of books.
I was looking at my reading journal from 2022, and I only tracked like 3 statistics. I'm like, I don't know how I gathered so many more statistics that I tracked this year.
I have actually abandoned my bullet journal like partway through this year. And the only thing I kept in was like my main book pages. But like these were not even like big crazy months for me. I don't know. But in general, I think it probably was my best reading year if you go by numbers. But if you go by like favorite, like having favorite reads, it was then a really bad year. Which I don't know what that does. Like I started a book bingo and I never finished it. I never got around to it. I made it too difficult. So. Do you have any book goals for the new year?
The only like actual goal I have is to finish more series than I start, because I started 29 series in 2024. I'm not continuing all of them, but I'm continuing most of them, and I'm like, I need to dial it back. I need to do damage control. I've made a spreadsheet to track all of my series. And if I see myself starting a bunch, I'm like, okay, I gotta knock some of these out. So that's really my only goal. But like, obviously, I have other stuff like participate in the book club and stuff like that.
So you said that you're more of like a completionist when it comes to series. See, like I definitely DNF part with your series a lot.
There are definitely series that I like. One of the books that I read this year was The Dry by Jane Harper, which is a thriller mystery type of book, but I absolutely hated the main character. He's very like my mom died when I was a baby and my girlfriend from high school died, so now I'm a sad man, and I'm like, I just am not interested in that type of character, so I won't be continuing that series. But like a lot of the series that I started this year I also loved, so I'm like, obviously I want to keep reading them.
Yeah. I understand that. I thought that you were reading the Era 2 Mistborn, or you had Rain Tiger on your list.
I started that this year, and The Alloy of Law was this close to being my favorite book of the year, but then I read Divine Rivals, and I'm like, no, that one's number 1. So
I read Divine Rivals last year. And I read Alloy of Law. Did I read that this year? Okay, but I actually DNF'd the next book in this book too. I don't know why. I just wasn't
Don't
getting
say
into
that.
it.
I know absolutely nothing about what happens in the rest of Mistborn Era 2, except that there's a character death that's going to destroy me. I don't know who it is. I'm avoiding Googling things because I don't want to spoil myself, but that's literally the only thing I know going into it.
Well, I think sometimes just myself, if I wait too long between reading them, I lose interest. And I think that's what happened in this case.
Mm.
So I think I'm going to go back and see about rereading the first one. Because I did that with another book recently where I pick up the sequel and I'm like, I feel like I'm so out of the story that I think I just need to reread the whole thing.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'm going to have to do for some of my series because there are some series that I haven't touched in like 5 years. So,
Yeah. And because I owned it by now, I was having it. It's really good.
it's so good. I'm
Yeah.
so excited to read the next book. I'm like so scared.
Yeah, Divine Rivals has a lot of great like tropes in it. Yeah. Oh, also worth shouting out is Your Favorite is also doing a new
Mm-hmm.
friend this year, and I'm looking forward to that because that was a big hit last year.
Yeah.
So, and it seems like there's some fun categories as well. So I will definitely be participating in Your Favorites again because I had a lot of fun doing that this year.
Yeah. I'm not doing it so structured where I'm picking one specific book each month like I did last year, but if I have some free time, I'm going to go through everyone else's favorite books and pick some stuff.
Didn't do every single month last year, but I did a few of them. I definitely did January.
Well, that's because January was also the book club.
Yeah, but I also read Lynn's favorite. No, not January. February. I read a few months. I would have to go back and look at the sheet. I don't know if I always upgraded when I did what, but I totally read a few. But I didn't always read them in the correct month. Because sometimes I forgot or I didn't get around to it.
That's fair.
Oh, I read The Giver. That was one. And I read... Oh, I read a lot. But okay, I think we can wrap up this discussion. We dragged it on enough. Now we're just chatting about random shit.
Listen, man, it's a book club. That's always what ends up happening.
That's true. So thank you for the two people here, Nina and who else? And stay tuned for 2025. It has been a great year as always. And thank you to Mars for being here for not only today, but most of the picks throughout the year.